Well, today's talk is, I wouldn't call it it's not like a clear topic with a conclusion. Um, I feel like it's jumping around a little bit, or I will be jumping around a little bit in the talk. Um, Partially because there's just a few different things that I I feel are good to mention, and they're not all directly connected. Of course, they're connected in the oneness sense that everything is. um, so, yeah, let's see, like 4 or 5 things. I'll just mention the 4 or 5 things and then try to make sense of them. And then also, I want to open it up in the beginning and at the end for questions and inspirations. One thing I want to mention is the speaker who's going to be here in October, Reverend Shute from San Francisco Zen Center, who has written a book about anti-racism and Dharma. It's called Home is Here. And so she or they will be here in October. So they wrote a book in discussing the Buddhist principles, Four Noble Truths, and how we can work with them in an anti-racist way. And I'm not an expert in it. I haven't read the book yet. I've just scanned through a bit. And so maybe Choa Sensei has more specific information about, particular emphasis of the book, or anybody else who's read it. Second thing is that yesterday we had sort of an almost workshop about communication and intimacy, and that was with Sage. Sage Robinson is a San Diego spiritual, sober person who's very supportive. Saying she's sober is not, I don't think she's very open about it, very excited about it, very inviting about it. And so for anybody who struggles with sobriety, keep in mind that we have people in our Sangha, in our community, that are really have great teachings and leadership. So feel free to ask me about that. But the workshop she does she does a variety of workshops. This one was about communication in relationship in particular. You don't have to be in a relationship to consider yourself kind of in relationship with the world, right? So we can develop communication and get better at communicating our truths, understanding ourselves, connecting with intimacy with others. And can be really helpful in relationships where there's patterns and habits and things to undo and redo. And so that's a second thing. The third thing is about passion. I wanted to bring up and discuss passion a bit. It's something I'm particularly working on in my life. Following your passion. It has nothing to do with romance. It's just what we're passionate about. And what a powerful teaching and lesson that's been for me. So I wanted to encourage you all in this as well. And then that really leads to the next point, which is appreciating our life. It's not just our life, it's appreciating our now. appreciating now, and how powerful that is. And it's sort of a side note to passion, to following our passion. So I just want to introduce these things. I'm not going to belabor the points too much. It's not going to be a long talk. But I wanted to at least let you know kind of where we're going and open it up. If anybody has any questions about any of these areas or comments, anything maybe you've been thinking about already, I invite you now to raise your hand and share anything you may have that's relevant to any of those topics. Yes, sir.
So, I thank you for bringing up the topic of passion, because for me that's kind of a tricky one. As we do our practice here at the center and in our daily lives, you want to be passionate about family, you want to be passionate about work, you want to be passionate about your friends. But then there's the counterbalance: how do I not become too attached to some of these things in my life? So to me, that has something that I've been thinking about lately, is how to be passionate and yet not too crazy about things, because I kind of can overdo things, as my wife says.
Mm-hmm.
So that balance for me has been tricky lately. So
Okay.
thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. For sure. That's important. Yes, sir.
I have a comment. Every time I hear.
Sorry, I was going to say, before we do that, they're having trouble hearing, so maybe if we do the question and answer part, we'll switch mics here. Sorry, everyone. Okay, you're good to go.
Every time I hear somebody say follow your passion, I feel like there should be an asterisk there, because a lot of people don't know what their passion is. And I have the personal belief that you don't, unless you're a very lucky person, you don't automatically have a passion just burning there already. You might have an interest. Most people have interests and predispositions. But at least in my experience, it seems to be the case that you have an interest that you pour yourself into, and the better you get at it, the more you put yourself into that interest, then passion starts building. And that's when you start really loving it. You get good at it, and you can see further into the field than you could before. And then also, that pouring in, I think, is also, there should be another asterisk there if you're a Buddhist. Like that could be, that's something you need to be mindful of, because that can develop into a very deep attachment, in my way of thinking. And in the Pali Canon, it's said that you're supposed to develop passionlessness. You're supposed to not to be carried away by things, because that disrupts tranquility. So that is my comments on that.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Good points.
Yeah, so passion, life atmosphere, passion of movement. I believe passion has a balance, between going full obsession and the drive that leads to your passion, because it builds character, tenacity, courage, and creates a length of a process to understand, develop, and keep your passion and not take it too far with family, your marriage, your spiritual walk. And it's an organic and holistic flow that creates balance. And once you create that balance and that passion, you're able to live in that passion. You're able to give the energy of passion. You're able to move in that passion. And it takes, what is the motive of my passion? Why am I driving in this direction? So I see passion as a beautiful balance in life for understanding of myself.
Okay, yeah, nice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Good point.
Yeah, so I have a question. It's a little bit related to this question, where how do we make sure that while pursuing our passion, we don't get so invested in just thinking about the future too much, or what what it could be if we pursue our passion, because it's very common nowadays that we get invested on all these plans that we have, or the idea of what what we would like to become out of this passion. And I think it's very easy to get confused on assuming that we're pursuing our passion and just kind of reaching a level of discomfort or anxiety because we're just aiming so much for something that it's out there in the future, or it seems hard to be attainable right away. So that's my first question: how do we find the balance? And also, like, is it like, how can we be passionate? How can we be just as passionate for what we have now compared to the passion that we feel when we aim for something in the future? If that makes any sense.
I have an actual question. I found this true in my life, and I've recently heard some career advisors say this, that they say, don't follow your passion, but rather do what you're good at, and then you will become passionate about it.
That sounds like matchmaking. This relationship is good, it will work, and we'll find love later.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you all for.
We have a question.
Sorry, one more. Yeah.
I have a question that kind of bridges a gap between two other things that were brought up. But how can we pursue passion without losing the focus of that passion and delving into obsessiveness? It kind of, like you kind of mentioned at the very beginning, like sobriety. That's one of those things that I think is often used as like a way to like enable passion, and like not being able to control that can lead to obsession and being so stuck on one thing, alcohol, drugs, things of that nature. So how can we pursue passion without obsession?
Great question. All right, yeah, thank you all so much for all these great questions and points. One thing that I've realized through this is that I'm clearly in over my head answering questions about passion. I think it might take maybe a small workshop to kind of really get into it, and but I see the passion you have about the the topic of passion, and so I'll be thinking about that more, right? I think the beginning of every talk I should throw out 4 different ideas and see which one hits.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into passion much at all. I'm not going to try to. Thank you. We will put a pin in that. But that is one of my passions, is being able to talk about these things and, figure it out and, create a nice community, vibe and flow that we can all work on this. I think it's so powerful. And I think there's so much there, right? Because I'm coming from a place of, oh, gee, right? I'm working a tough job. I have a tough job being a teacher. And I got burnt out last year. And I'm like, man, I'm getting burnt out. How can I recover my passion? How can I bring more joy and happiness into my life? And starting to follow my passions, making decisions like, I'll go to the beach today instead of sit at home. I'll, take the dog to the park instead of walk around the block. These are small decisions. Just finding a little more joy. But it leads to big things. And then also finding passion for what I'm doing. Wherever I am, where I am. So anyway, I look forward to thinking about this more and talking about it more. Maybe give a talk, maybe have a talk just about this, maybe do a small workshop. It's an example where Sage's work could be really powerful. Sage has a really powerful system of work, which brings up the point that Zen is awesome. Zen is great. Zen is awesome. Zen isn't supposed to be everything you do. It's not supposed to be just the only thing you do. To work through things in life, to make progress in different ways, to grow in different areas. I see Zen as providing sort of the foundation to start to develop concentration and to appreciate our lives as we are now. Acceptance. If I can accept my life as it is, then I have more freedom to resolve stuck places and to do work that may help grow in other areas. So I encourage you all to think about doing other things, other ways you can complement your life, complement Zen practice to grow in whatever ways that serve us and serve you. So back to Reverend Shute, who's going to be here in October. She talks about being anti-racist. And so I just wanted to introduce that topic a little more, that concept. The concept a little more, reinforce that concept. On the spectrum of being like tolerant or open, anti-racism is sort of on one end of the spectrum. It's like if you realize if you're judgmental or have any racist thoughts or elements in your being, and you start to like go, oh, you recognize the privilege that's built into the system. We recognize privilege that we have in different ways. There's being against racism, which is great. It's great, of course, right? That's our foundation. Being against racism, but then taking extra steps to be anti-racist is really taking more action steps. It's being more active in that process. It's being willing to speak out more and to call out things that we feel are racist. So it's really taking that extra step to live it, to walk the talk on the next level. I have a very small point to make about this. Again, this whole talk is kind of jumping around. I just wanted to make this point that I think is a powerful point, and I hope that it may resonate with some of you. One of the things that, okay, the word itself, white supremacy. Reverend Shute uses this word in her work. She says, this issue of white supremacy, this issue of white supremacy. And this is not about her. This is in general, because every time I hear it, I just cringe, because saying that word reinforces that idea. There's nothing supreme about racism. It's not supremacy. It's like white fragility or white hate, white insecurity, right? So it's just a seed to plant, right? Whenever I hear that term, I think to myself, nothing supreme about it. It's white fragility or white hatred that comes to mind as a more accurate description of what's going on there. So it's a small point, right? It's just when someone's talking about white supremacy and they use the word supremacy, that somehow does not resonate with me. There's something that's reinforcing that there's something supreme about it. And it's the opposite. It's more like, what's the opposite of supreme? And that's what it would be called. White insanity, idiocy, irresponsibility. So anyway, that's just the point I wanted to make, to plant the seed, that when we hear a term, that we can kind of undo that reinforcement in our own mind by associating it in a different way. All right, so the last point I'm going to make here today, it connects with passion maybe, but it's more about appreciation, I think. What I'd like to reinforce for you all is appreciation for your moment, for your life now. We hear appreciate your life, right? And I think, oh, my life, it includes my kids and my work and my joys and my hobbies. I can appreciate my life. That's a big picture thought, which is a little different than appreciating my life as it is right now. So for example, if I ask you all, imagine I'm asking you all individually, how is your Zen? How is your Zen going? I suspect, right, I'm not trying to project, but I suspect the first answer, the first thoughts that we come up with are, oh, I'm not doing enough. That tends to be kind of like our culture. Our culture, we tend to denigrate ourselves. We tend to look down at ourselves, what we're doing. Kind of like saying, are you doing enough? We kind of interpret it like that, the question. How's your Zen practice? We hear, am I doing enough? And I want to answer, well, I'm not doing enough. So I want to encourage you all in this to shift that to like fully appreciate what you're doing now. So an alternative answer that you might have to that question when I say, how is your Zen practice? Think of this as an answer. I love my Zen practice. I love what I'm doing with it. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine answering that way? I love my practice. I love what I'm doing. I'm doing enough. So that is another seed, right? I wanted to plant in your head is to, like, whenever you catch if you, that's why we sit for a few years, is to develop enough concentration so we can catch ourselves when the thought comes up and we go, oh, I realize I was just about to say something negative about my practice or what I'm doing. So the encouragement is to bring this love, like, and I feel it. I feel this joy, like seeing an old friend for the first time in years. Bringing this, oh, I love it. I'm so happy that you're here. I feel this like connection and I feel good about it. It's good to see you again. Bring that to the answer of, how are you doing today? How's your practice today? How's work today? How's your family today? Whatever it is you got going on, notice the shift from, oh, could be better. It's not so bad. I'm still struggling. I need some work to do. That shift from that to, I love what I'm doing today. I really appreciate what I'm able to do today. So that's it for the jumping around talk. Feel free to resume the talk about passion. But seriously, open it up now again for questions and comments. Wait till he's going to turn on the mic so the people on Zoom can hear. I'm going to turn my audio off.
All right. You speak of appreciating the present moment. I would say doing that can be utterly horrifying and scary, to really sink into the present moment and appreciate it. It can feel like death. It's but like, at least in my experience, when you really sink into the present moment, everything can drop away. That instant can feel like death. But I'm also reminded that Zazen is the gate of ease and joy. If you stay with that, really, that fear goes away. And it's quite nice. A practice I used to do to appreciate life is I would think about death a lot. About how death doesn't, like, the idea of, like, well, we all know we're gonna die one day, it is inevitable. It always feels like kind of in the future. I've been fortunate enough to come extremely close to death a few times, but also avoid it. And it's always a surprise. It's always just like, like, it's such a surprise. And it's one thing I've learned is that death doesn't happen in the future. Death is right now. It is right now. It's just you don't know when that right now is. And that makes me appreciate this present moment more. Sorry, I apologize if that is a bit morbid, but that is my comment.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your depth.
Yeah. Well, I was under the assumption that the beauty of Zen practice also comes from not just sitting with loving or happy feelings towards being in the present moment. Because I also just sometimes sit and there's thoughts that make me feel overwhelmed and angry and mad. So yeah, the idea of answering I love my practice every single time I get asked that can be a little scary. It can be a little scary because I might be afraid that it's just not being genuine with myself. So something that I like about this practice is how genuine you can be with yourself, regardless if you're 100% liking it or not. Because being in the present also means sitting with what it's not making you feel those positive emotions about the practice. But if I keep thinking, I mean, I can also love being mad or being upset. But it's a tough talk to sit with. Answering every time that I love my practice, when in reality sometimes it feels that I don't because of how much fear it can arise from sitting in the present moment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's why Zen is not a self-help program. And there's many levels, right? There's many levels of realization, of self-realization, of selfless realization. And so I would suggest that Zen one aspect of Zen is it's about growth, right? Of course, from the absolute perspective, right? There's no growth, there's no love, there's no hate, there's no this, there's no self. With that in mind, when we are on the spot, when we are in our relative circumstances, we're in the midst of creating our life, right? Honoring the Creator with the realization that there's no creation. Be the Creator. Recognize your responsibility to grow and to identify patterns and to undo patterns and to create new patterns. And so from that perspective, right, seeing the suggestion, it's not a commandment. Be happy all the time. Of course, it's not what I'm suggesting. It's more about developing more appreciation. How can I develop more appreciation in my life? And if I do, will I see changes? Right? It's an experiment. If I can bring the mind of appreciation to whatever I'm going through, will that help things go better? I can't guarantee they will. I can speak from experience that in my life they go better when I bring appreciation to whatever is here. And that's mostly around my issues. I'm learning to appreciate my anger. I'm learning to appreciate my insecurity, my anxiety, my fear that I carry every day. Starting to love that I hate. If I can love my hate, then I have a chance of changing, of growing from that, growing in that. Because there is an element of Zen that I see where there's a refers to acceptance. Accept reality as it is. Well, I spent years accepting that I'm not that happy, or that I'm angry, and afraid. Accepting that has been a powerful practice for me. I've accepted it. Now I want to try something different. I want to try to grow, I want to change it, I want to transform. And so learning to love what I've been afraid of has helped me to grow and transform. And I can honestly say that today I'm happier as a result of bringing love and appreciation to the acceptance. It's not a guarantee, it's not a prescription. It's an offering of an experiment as part of this grand experiment, right, that we're all doing. And as I mentioned, right, Zen isn't supposed to be everything we do. We're supposed to do other things. We're supposed to see a therapist if we need one. We're supposed to do a self-help workshop if it's going to be helpful. We're supposed to work on our communication, right? These are things we don't do in Zazen. But adds so much to our life. And so yeah, I do encourage us to try different things, try different perspectives, bring appreciation and love into the mix, and see if it helps.
I was just pointing out there's a hand up online.
Okay. Eli.
Thank you for your talk, Echo. I have. Okay, cool. I did have something to say about passion, um, which I feel like kind of ties into this, but passion, passion is not sustainable. Passion is a feeling, and feelings are visitors. Um, Passion is it's nothing if it's not followed by action. Um, and it ebbs and flows, right? And so I think when we're thinking about something that we're passionate about, it's it's different than love, you know. It's love is something that's built, and passion is something that's felt, in my opinion. And so turning that passion into drive and into love, are you going to want to do this when it gets hard? Like in a relationship, whether romantic, friendship, family, you know, are you going to be committed when it gets hard? And you know, are you still going to want to be committed to that, to do that? Like, I'm a nanny. I love what I do, but I'm not passionate about it when the child bites me, or when there's a diaper blowout and I got diarrhea running down my arm. I'm not super passionate about it right then, but I've built this love for it, this this commitment to it, this give and take, the symbiotic relationship that's like I get out what I put into it. And I think passion is fleeting. Um, like I said, it's not sustainable. And just because you're passionate about something doesn't mean that it's meant for you either. But how do we turn that passion into something we can really build upon? So I guess yeah, those were kind of my thoughts on passion.
I'll let.
You don't want to answer. I was asking if you don't want to answer before I speak to you.
Oh,
Thank you for the talk and the format. I think it's different. I like it. I also appreciate your adding language to the work that the community is doing in addressing racism. An invitation perhaps, and you can only do that because you're a white man, and I super appreciate it as a person, so that is not like, sort of acknowledging this is how I feel. And I super welcome it helps me. And at the same time, before one can start developing new language in the discourse of moving away from, I think I still need to deconstruct white superiority and supremacy, right? Because it's being supported by, it's systematic and it's percolated, the culture, and so both are needed, I think. This using a frame of reference, it could be in ethnic studies, there are a lot of tools to understand the history of it, right? Why is it so embedded in the thinking of how I even think of myself as a human being, right? This idea of there being races, which I don't, there's enough evidence and thought and discourse about it. So I think I still need to do that, right? In the spaces where it's safe. And at the same time, I super appreciate and welcome this other language that takes it on a space where there is a, in this, not that I'm an expert, but in decolonizing or colonizing studies, there is this first task of decolonizing my mind. What would my mind think, look like, perceive people like, had it not gone through this process of colonization? So that's the deconstruction of it, and there's just a lot of work. And then decoloniality, that's where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yes, creating a new language that comes after the hard work of deconstruction, the history, the elements, the systems, all of those things. That's kind of a comment. And on passion, the way I experience it, I think it's an energy for me. Like, it tells me about where I can put my energy to. And I've been sort of using both, I think, wisdom to the extent that I am more present. I'm better able to say, is it worth it for me to follow this passion to its fruition? So that's why I super appreciate your language of, because that brings me back to I am the creator. Indeed I am in every moment. And the more present I am, whatever, my body, my wisdom, this part, the hara, that's where the I think for me in my practice is starting to come up. That's when it turns into love. So thank you for the talk.
okay. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, so for me, I'll correlate just about everything together. And me as a being creator and destroyer, I must be able to be the demolition man of my, tradition of upbringing, culture, and the learned behavior and thought pattern that was developed from society, my neighborhood, my household, and understand my understanding of where love exists, positive affirmation, positive manifestation, and setting apart my transparency in my present time and what I do. And it takes growth, and the walls that were built by developing these emotions, mind state, belief systems, whether it's racism, stigma, looking at division and superiority. It's thought and learned tradition that has been given to people, nature versus nurture. Which one are you going to choose? You know, so for me, I create in my life positive affirmation all times. I deep dive, I deep dive to speak light and life and not death. But I recognize it humbly that all things are possible. But I know that the kingdom and the creation is within me. And once I remove any negative connotation of what's going to hinder me, it's waste. So I'm tearing down these walls. The demolition man is in there. I'm not going to set seed or grow root with what's not pleasing to my spirit, what's not pleasing to the universe, what's not pleasing, because energy is everything. Energy doesn't die, it just transfers. So as I live, I'm going to transfer positivity, and the energy is going to be uplifting, you know. So how am I in practice? It's great, you know, moving forward, best I could do, you know. I could fall back and deep dive and say, oh, well, it's not okay all the time, and you know, but then now I'm rationalizing with myself. Now I'm being a pessimistic within myself, and I'm not balancing my truth, because my point of life is to love, you know, my community, my family, and see energy of those around me who are like-minded, you know, not to see a division between culture, race, sexuality, anything of the plane that can create division. Unity is key, and unity has positivity, love, passion. Passion can be a fleeting emotion, as the person said, but also though, what we described, I have a strong passion, but I know in my passion there's going to be pitfalls. I know in my passion, you know, there's going to be things that aren't comfortable sometimes, but it's still my passion. I'm ready for that because holistically, I know that's inevitable. It's not going to be roses all the time. So in the moment, in that process, you know, it's still my passion, my belief system, and my practice and meditation. It's still awesome because that's when you tackle yourself and go back to the demolition, tearing down the walls and barriers, tearing down what's not productive in your life. I do get angry sometimes, I do get upset, although that's part of the process. And I grow through it with love, positivity, and being realistic with myself, you know, sharing energy. So I just want to touch on every plane of it, you know, just a whole roundabout and not focus on passion too much. And yeah.
Nice, very nice. Thank you so much for your wisdom. Appreciate it.
I think we can agree that nowadays there's a lot that sucks. It really is. We wouldn't need to have conversations about white supremacy. We wouldn't need to have conversations about anti-trans legislation if they didn't exist. How do we cultivate appreciation for those things?
The ultimate question.
Thank you.
You mentioned something kind of at the beginning of your discussion about building an anti-racist mindset. And as someone who is very passionate about advocating for those who can't or aren't allowed to advocate for themselves, how do we thread that line of, am I actually helping this person, or am I allowing the perpetuation of of the negative inherent mindsets that are being placed upon people. By defending someone rather than giving them the tools to defend themselves, how am I breaking down the barriers that are being placed before those people?
Thank you for your question. I think it's a great question, right? Leading up to our presenter in October, right? The question we can continue to ask and talk about and work on in preparation for that. And so let's keep asking the question.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for all these questions and all these comments. You know, I've already given a few talks on this book, and I'm going to be giving a few more. The author, Reverend Leanne Shutt, is going to be here or on Zoom October 5th. But we've also done book clubs, and we've also done big community councils around these issues. So it's all just to say that poor Echo has 2 minutes to address this like very deep question in addition to a lot of other really deep questions. So please hold on to them. Please email them to me or Echo or anyone, and we can really, over time dig into all of these things. Even if it's resistance, right? All the resistance, all the curiosity, all the offerings, like this is the space, this is why the so what of introducing these materials is to work together as a community to chip away at all of these edges. So just TBC.